Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com, the podcast website about reimagining your life. Thanks for joining me today to talk about working through the challenges and come up in every day in life. So let's get started. If you like what you hear today, please leave a like, tell your friends, send me a message. Actually, something came up. I had a conversation with somebody a couple of weeks ago, and they had been watching, and they said, "But what does 7 Every Minute actually stand for?" And actually, it's on the website. But if you're just watching on the podcast, that originally was the rate that baby boomers are retiring. About 7 baby boomers retire every minute, if you work out the numbers, and so that's where that came from. Obviously, we've changed our show around. A bit over time. It's a larger audience now, but we still focus on people who are going through phases of their life, and so I have to come up with other things that happen 7 times. What can go right 7 times a minute? So, but that's where the number came from, the show name. But this week builds off of last week's discussion on perspective, which is an important part of life. And this week we're going to talk about is how to work through challenges, which we've talked about before from a practical standpoint with envisioning alternative outcomes and things of that nature. And this kind of is a corollary to that or builds upon that as well. But this week is more about situations that you just perhaps find difficult or distasteful, but which still need to be done. Think about things like, cleaning up after a party, filling out forms to get insurance reimbursement, submitting your accomplishments to your company to motivate others, speaking in public, to advocate for a cause, meeting people from other cultures. The list is probably infinitely long, and our excuses, or rather our reasons, for not doing these things are just as long, right? But if you think back to those times when you did force yourself, force is kind of a tough word, but okay, did encourage yourself to complete a difficult or challenging task, you will likely also remember how good, or at least, perhaps satisfied you felt at having completed something you knew you had to do but didn't really want to. But remember that word, satisfied. And if you're at all like me, chances are that part of the reason you did something you didn't really want to do or you didn't like to do was because it benefited someone else, either directly or indirectly. You don't like to speak in public, but you did it because it was for a cause you really believed in. You don't like to, go to meet and greet parties, but you went because you wanted to support your friends who were trying to start a neighborhood meetup to kind of ease tensions in the neighborhood. There are many possible reasons, but for me, it's much easier to do something if it's going to help someone else because that's something that's important to me. It's part of my purpose in life. And remember that word too, purpose. I just started following someone on LinkedIn. Her name is Danielle Cervellos or Cervellos. I'm not sure which way she pronounces it. It's DanielleCevallos, who is a strategist and coach who helps business leaders with personal brand strategy, content marketing, and positioning. I know of Danielle through another friend, Angela Stillwell, who I've known for years and whose work as a coach I respect a lot. So it makes me think, probably Danielle is pretty good as well. And Danielle had an interesting post in LinkedIn that meshes well with the book I'm currently reading, Build the Life You Want by Arthur Brooks and Oprah Winfrey, which I thought I left on the desk, but I was mistaken. And so that's the book, Arthur C. Brooks and Oprah Winfrey. And it's actually a very interesting book. But, in that book, they propose that a happy life is not a life without challenges, but rather it's a life pursuing enjoyment, satisfaction, and purpose. Right? There are those words again, satisfaction and purpose. They further propose that satisfaction and purpose generally require challenges to be overcome, and that attaining that goal helps to create a feeling of enjoyment in your life. In Danielle's LinkedIn post, she talked about the same general idea, but in the context of gymnastics and applying those concepts to both your personal and business lives. Danielle explains that as much as she loved gymnastics, she was never fond of nor particularly good at the parallel bars. But at the time, every contestant had to do all the different forms of competitive gymnastics, and she loved all the other parts. Specifically, and I'm partially quoting her now, what if we stopped trying to make every part of everything we do easy and just accepted that sometimes some things won't come naturally for us? But if those hard things open doors to the things we love, it's totally worth it, right? There will be, my word, difficult. There will be difficult things You just have to do because they're part of the game. Things that allow you to do the things that you're brilliant at, the things that you love to do, the things that are easy. So instead of trying to escape the hard parts, she goes on saying, that's the end of the quote, go on saying that, um, you know, it's the hard parts that allow you to do, the things that we want to do. The very things we don't want to do that allow us the freedoms or the capabilities or whatever to do the things that we do want to do, right? Life can be kind of funny sometimes, right? It's kind of counterintuitive. But by working through the hard things, two things happen. First, we feel satisfaction having completed something, which for us, we found difficult. It doesn't matter if it was easy for someone else. For us, it was a challenge. But the next part is just as important. That satisfaction makes us proud of ourselves in a good way. It reminds us that we are capable of doing more than we might think. And it also helps us to value what we have accomplished, which leads to more life satisfaction in a very general sense. It gives us more confidence because we had something we really thought was going to be difficult. We went ahead and did it, and we did it, and it worked. It's kind of like, wow, we really can do those things. Finally, by working through something difficult when we really didn't want to, chances are we did it because it was important to our purpose in life. This is a double positive because not only do we feel good about working towards our purpose, but we've also avoided the negative self-talk that we likely would have had if we, thought about what we didn't do and we felt, it was the right thing to do, but we didn't do it. We've talked before about the damage from negative self-talk. One of the biggest problems is we're always with ourselves. So in those quiet in-between moments, if we're harboring negative feelings about ourselves, our mind will conjure up related negative thoughts, and we will start to believe that we really are incapable of doing some particular thing. But by actually doing the difficult or challenging task, we break that cycle. That not only avoids any immediate negative self-talk, but also gives our brain a reason to think that we are capable of doing anything that we put our minds to do. And that's a much better way to live. Relatedly, sometimes there are just tasks that you just have to push through because there's no way around them. I spent the past week and weekend for the day job reassembling some documentation for a project that had gotten a little disorganized, shall we say. I had two options of how to perceive the task. The task wasn't going to change, but I could change how I viewed it. Either it was going to be total drudgery and I could despise every second of it, or I could think of it as something that would allow me to complete what I needed to do to support both the project manager, who I respect, and the lead person for the agency who we're doing the work for, who I've known for over 20 years. So I took the second view and celebrated every little win as it evolved and finally got through it. It didn't make it fun. It didn't make it easy. It certainly didn't make it go fast. But at least every time I could get through something, I could say, wow, okay, that makes sense. Things are coming together. We're making progress towards the goal. The result is that the past 2 days have been very productive. And while I'm still late, of course, I'm an engineer, but while I'm still late, I'm sure if I'd made every second totally horrible drudgery, I probably wouldn't have made the progress I did and still would have to complete the exact same task. So sometimes there's a slightly different situation where there just isn't an option to not do something, but you still have the option as to how you want to think about it. When you focus on the benefits and the positive outcomes, you still end up with the needed results of getting satisfaction from your work and appreciating that it has a purpose in your life. Those two things will form the basis for getting some degree of enjoyment from your efforts, even if it's just the enjoyment of not having the challenge still in front of you. So I hope this quick look at how diving into a challenging problem or challenging problems can help form the basis for happiness in your life. The task itself may not be especially enjoyable, but the results should lead you to more satisfaction and support your feelings of purpose in your own life. Note that the purpose may not be direct. You may not care about the task at hand particularly, but it allows you to make, say, more money, for example, and that allows you to pay your grandchild's tuition. You can come up with lots of scenarios in the same vein where the task itself isn't necessarily the most favorite thing or that particularly related to your purpose in life, but it allows you, one way or indirectly, to then work ahead towards the purpose of your life. It's still consistent with your overall life purpose, and that will help keep it in perspective. So that's it for the evening. I hope you have a better feeling towards addressing some of the distasteful challenges that could arise. They're just unavoidable in life, and realize that rather than keeping us from happiness, They can potentially be small stepping stones to actually bringing us more happiness in our lives. Your homework, optional as always. Think of a task or situation that you've really been putting off because you just don't like to do it. Pick anything, but probably just one or two things at the most. And try to reframe them in terms of how completing them might make you feel more satisfied with yourself and the joy of not having to do, not having to deal with them anymore, quite frankly, but just look at the joyful side of getting past this hurdle you've been looking at. Extra points if you just pick one thing, write down what you could do and why it's consistent with your purpose in life. If you want to be a real superhero, then actually set a time and just do it. But very important, don't forget to celebrate the win when you get it completed. And that's super important so that your brain really learns that success makes you happy. So that's it for the evening. As always, ukr7.com. Some links to Ukraine, and the link to worldcentralkitchen.org, wck.org. Remember, Ukraine war is still going on, it's dragging on, and I know there's lots of things in the world. We just picked that one to focus on. Obviously, there's lots of things related to Israel and Palestine, that whole war. There's lots of situations all through the world. One of the nice things about World Central Kitchen is they're active anywhere there's a disaster or a problem in the world. So lots of ways to help people, and you don't even have to go through one of these organizations. There are lots of ways to help people just locally in your own life, in your own neighborhood, in your own way. Even just saying hi to somebody on the street can change the whole day. So remember that one of the best ways to care for yourself is to care for others. It takes you outside of yourself, puts you into the whole world, gives you a different perspective. So if you can and able, please try and help ukr7.com, wck.org, just anyone you meet in the street, a local charity, whatever you can do to just try and improve the world a little tiny bit. As always, thank you for stopping by. If you found something you're interesting, please, or useful, please pass it along, and please hit that like button. And if not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Have a great week. Remember to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path to true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone. See you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.